Okay, the first order of business on the agenda tonight is a review of the minutes. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the minutes from December 15th. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, it's unanimous. Okay, we have 705, we have license renewals for 2005. We have the common vicular license, the licenses, I should say. And that was for, I believe, there was some outstanding, that's right, licenses from last year, and that was McDonald's, Kuya Market, yeah, thank you. And it looks like KFC is about to pay, so these are the three that have basically were they're overdue or did not pay in the last meeting, but now have paid up on their licenses. So I guess I'll accept the motion to accept them.
I'll make a motion we accept the motions, the licenses.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion?
Yeah, there is some. Joyce, KFC is going to take care of that this week, you said?
They're working from Florida, I guess they have an office down there as well, so she was saying that she'd put it in the mail and get it to us.
This week?
Yeah.
You could do pending KFC.
Check is in the mail?
Yeah.
do
That's the most.
Obviously, we should-
Get from her.
Okay. Well, why don't
Keep
we
you updated on that.
approve it contingent to receiving the check?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I will change my motion to contingent we receive the check from KFC.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded to accept the vicular licenses. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous. Class 2 auto dealer license. The building inspector has submitted a letter to us recommending that all locations of Class 2 dealer licenses be renewed for 2005. And actually, the town solicitor has a update you would like to brief us on.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. With whatever licenses you approve for the Class 2 licenses, there's a new requirement in the statutes that they produce and provide a surety bond in the amount of $25,000 prior to being able to receive either the new license or the renewal of the license. So whatever you approve, my suggestion would be that you approve it contingent upon them providing satisfactory proof to the administrator's office that they have complied with that provision. And I can give the information to Michael as to what they need to
Okay.
establish that.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we grant all of the Class 2 dealer licenses that the building inspector has classified with the stipulation that they produce a $25,000 surety bond. Surety bond, Dennis?
Yes.
Surety bond prior to them receiving their license.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman, in a discussion, if I may.
Under discussion?
Town solicitor, there's no grandfather clause or anything like that for any of this stuff? Okay.
No, but it's a condition that when it gets renewed or a new one gets issued,
Okay.
they have.
Great, thank you. Any further questions?
Okay. Motion been made and seconded, and that was on the Class 2 auto dealer license. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous. I don't want to go into the 7:15 yet because we're a little ahead of schedule, so I'll accept a motion to go into administrative business.
I make a motion that we go to board of administrative business.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, first up on administrative business. We have the following late-night closings for the month of January 2005. We have Clinton Turner's, Gale House Grill, Jack's Bar, Gil Timer Restaurant, Scooby-Doo's, and Ringside Cafe. What's the motion of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant the late-night closings for the establishments listed and any others that might come before the board with the police chief's approval.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made and second for late-night closings. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? One abstention, 3 in favor. Next up we have is the snow and ice account. Superintendent of Public Works, Christopher McGowan, has submitted a letter to us requesting an additional $75,000 in funding for the fiscal year 2005 snow and ice account.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve $75,000 additional funding for the snow and ice account.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made and seconded on the snow and ice account for an additional $75,000. Is there any discussion? There being none? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Next up, we have the Massachusetts Highway Department. They sent us a copy of a draft agreement with the town of Clinton for reconstruction of the intersections at Main Street and Church Street. So we have the draft is enclosed, so we'll be signing that. So I guess they're looking for a final vote for us tonight to sign the
Make
draft.
a motion that we sign the reconstruction contract for the intersections of Main and Church.
Motion's been made, is there a second to that? I'm sorry. Motion's been made and second. Any discussion? There being none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. And this is just a, I guess we'll go through and accept them. We have a DPW monthly report from the Superintendent of Public Works. So I guess we should do it officially and take a vote on each one.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the DPW police and fire reports
For the month of...
for the month of December.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
We're going to accept all three?
Yeah.
No, I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the monthly reports from the DPW, police, and fire departments. Any discussion?
Under discussion, the fire chief did call me on Friday, like 4:10, trying to get in, and we did have the conference down in Boston at the Selectman's office, so he did make an effort to get it there prior to them leaving for Boston, so
Okay.
just wanted
Do
to
we
do
know
note that.
Yeah.
And on discussion, Mike, we're gonna schedule meetings for them to come in and discuss the report next time we meet.
Yeah,
That was
that's,
part of the motion we were gonna do.
yeah, that's just how we want to schedule with the board.
Be a follow-up.
We're gonna have
Do that.
reports first and then.
Probably next meeting on the 26th,
Right.
we'll have a follow-up with each department head.
Right.
Because the police chief asked me that, and I indicated to discuss that with the board tonight.
Just do the rest of these.
Just under discussion too, I noticed in the police report there wasn't a log of, I didn't see it anyway, so vacation time and all that, sick time and personal time wasn't broken down like the other department. So,
We had like a time sheet.
Yeah, I think
Was a
it's
timesheet in
it's
there?
hard to read because it's a computer
Computer printout?
generated on
Okay.
the back, so it's,
So
I
that's
think
my
after,
hope.
after a couple of months, you get used to the format, and you'll see the categories and the columns and how it's lined up, and
Oh, okay.
and kind of, it's not pulled out where it's done separate,
Right.
by him, it's just part of the printout from the computer
Okay,
organization.
all right.
So it's,
My bad.
The one comment or under discussion as we accept these is, I think all three reports were very well done. The detail that the DPW superintendent went into
Yeah, it was great.
from a subjective standpoint was very, very good. And what I'd like to see on all three reports is really that strong executive summary type thing. And we can talk to them when we meet face to
Right,
face.
sure.
I think that will
More
be
in-depth report type,
Yeah.
yeah, get into those.
Standard.
Okay,
yeah,
any,
exactly, I think you could pull out some of
Yeah.
that, the reference material and just summarize it into the executive opinion, that's a good point.
is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, I have, just before, 7:15 just yet.
Into all the new business.
Yeah, we can go right into old new business with, like to make a motion for that.
Make a motion, we go to old new business, Mr. Chairman?
Second.
Motion been made, second, any discussion? There being none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Old new business, we have, and I know our director's here actually for this, so this will help us out a lot. The Senior Center Design, Economic Development Director Don Lowe has submitted a memo to the Selectmen indicating that the Designer Selectmen Committee that reviewed the proposals for architectural services to convert the former Parkhurst School to a new senior center is recommending the contract be awarded to the McGuire Group. They're an engineering firm. So I know Donnie is here. Donnie, if you'd just like to approach the board here and just fill us in a little bit.
I actually have a copy of a fax that I just received this afternoon. It's not a contract, but it would explain for the board type of services that would be provided and what the proposed dollar amounts are.
As Don's passing that out, Mr. Chairman, I'll just comment as a member of the Building Needs Committee that we did vote, and it was unanimous that we supported the efforts of Don and the selection committee in selecting the McGuire group. So it was a unanimous vote of the Needs Committee that the board move ahead with this.
As you said, Mr. Chairman, the Design Selection Committee did meet, the committee consisting of Mr. Ward, Attorney Sergeant, and myself, and we interviewed 4 firms back to back to back to back, which is always interesting. You've got all the presentations fresh in your mind, and to contrast and compare how different firms approach things. We, I believe, speaking for the 3 of us, selected the McGuire Group for a couple of reasons. One, they had spent considerable time at the site. They made the effort to understand the site. They were the only firm that came in with even some rudimentary conceptual drawings about what can be done with the space. They were by far the most excited, I would say, about the site. They were always talking in terms of how the site can be made to work. One of the other things that I believe we found very intriguing about the McGuire Group is, with the exception of cost estimating, which they always send out to another firm, all of the functions that would need to be performed, whether it's HVAC, electrical, whatever, they have on staff. They would not be hiring a consultant to do any of it, which would, in our opinion, necessitate not only a markup potentially, because obviously if they're jobbing out the work, then they're going to mark up something, the firm could potentially mark something up to us, but also the flexibility. If there was something that needed to be addressed right away, not having somebody on staff, there was a concern about how quickly a firm could react. And also, we talked to a couple of firms that have built many brand new senior centers. This is not a brand new senior center that we propose to build. It's an adaptive reuse of an existing building. And when we looked at the work that they've done in adaptive reuse, they've done quite a bit of it, from small projects to very large-scale projects. So I would encourage Mr. Ward or Attorney Sergeant to add anything that they may have. But I would like to say that we wouldn't be where we are right now with this recommendation without the hard work of Michael and Dennis. They put a lot of time in on this. It wasn't just me. I just happened to be the spokesperson. But if any of them have anything to add, I would.
Yeah, I think with this firm that struck me is when they came in, they spoke about the building. They spoke about Parkhurst. They had been down there, they had reviewed it, they did some drawings, some sketches as to how the floor plan they think it could work right now. So without even getting the job or knowing, where they were in the process, they were already thinking about how this building, they could make this building work for us. So that impressed me, that, again, that adaptive reuse, that they're looking for ways to make it work, whether it needs they talked about a little addition on for the elevator and an rear entry to preserve program space, maximize the program space in the building. But already they're taking that step of looking ahead. So that really stuck with me, and I thought it showed that they were, really committed to the town in this project. And
as I said, the firms all interviewed well, and we, did not be highly critical of any of the other firms. If it was one of the other firms doing this work, I think we would still be well served. But I believe that the way a relationship starts off sets the tone for it, and they were clearly, in my opinion, the most energetic, the most enthusiastic about this site, about the attitude of how can we make it work, which I felt was highly important. Now, we all have a copy of the facts that I received today, and just to give you this is not a contract, nothing to sign tonight. This is broken down into a few phases, which is what the direction of the board was. The first phase, which would be the feasibility phase, which would, to summarize, they would review all existing documentation, perform additional visual inspections of the property, determine precisely what all the codes are that need to be met, do a complete programmatic review, working with the Building Needs Committee, directly with the Building Needs Committee. If the Building Needs Committee needs to call in other people, we would do so at the chairman's request, but working directly with the Building Needs Committee, they would put together emphasizing preliminary construction cost budget forecasts, so we would get a pretty fair estimate as to what it would take to make the building work based on what the programmatic needs are, and also the final feasibility report. And just to read the last two bullets, the preliminary construction cost budget forecast would provide preliminary estimates of probable construction costs for system and code upgrades, replacement of systems, and hazardous materials will be prepared by McGuire's construction cost estimating subconsultant. And the feasibility report, the above investigations will be summarized in a written bound report that will include photographs supporting the investigations. To get us to the point where we've had the feasibility study performed, we know whether or not we can make the site work, and if we can make the site work, what the estimated price tag would be $7,000, which I feel is a very competitive price. It's less than 10% of the entire proposed cost of the project. There are subsequent phases, 3 other phases: phase 2, design services; phase 3, managing the bidding process. The entire bidding process would be managed by them; and phase 4, construction services, working as an on-site representative for the town as construction is going on. That would be an additional $83,000, which adds up to $90,000, which magically is the same amount that the town voted at town meeting to approve for this project. So we have a written proposal that would get us a feasibility study and would keep us within budget for what the town voted to appropriate. So it is the recommendation of Mr. Ward, Attorney Sergeant, and myself that the Board of Selectmen authorize me to send a notice to proceed to the McGuire Group, and that we proceed to enter into a formal contract with them.
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, just out of curiosity.
No? All right.
What was the other two bidders, did they give an amount?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
The other bidder, what was their total fee for doing this whole thing? Did they give you a number?
The way that this process works by statute is the selection committee had to decide who the number one firm was. We enter into negotiations with them. If we reach a satisfactory price proposal, we don't proceed to the next firm. So this is the only firm we have a price from, and that is by statute.
Okay.
I was going to comment, Selectman Mendoza, regarding the pricing. It is extremely competitive, at least compared to, with my experience as far as percentages.
No, I was just curious.
Cost of construction and things like that. I think they did a good job, and I think being more than fair as far as what their services are going to be and what the price ratio of cost of construction to engineering services are going to be.
And this was actually negotiated in real time. Some of the negotiations actually took place on Saturday at the MMA conference. They were there, the 3 of us were there. There was an early proposal that was submitted. We asked that some adjustments be made, and they did indeed make the adjustments. So,
I'd just like to add, Donnie, I'd like to thank you, Town Solicitor Dennis Sargent, and Town Administrator Michael Ward for serving on that committee and helping out the town. We really appreciate it.
thank you.
So thank you. What is the, was there a motion?
Motion was made.
Okay.
There's a second on it, too.
Second from, was it Dino?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion or comments? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, it's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the Senior Center Director position. And basically, at the last meeting, we were given some criteria of how other towns, seen how we have nothing on file. The last time we appointed a director back in 1994. So the administrator had given us some information to look at and some kind of guideline requirements to go through. So that's where we are right now. I don't know if the board feels comfortable tonight about taking a position, or would they like to?
Well, Mr.
Go to
Chairman,
next.
I think you need to advertise
Okay.
as soon as possible. I know the council is getting concerned with the director retiring at the end of the month, so of course we get that in the papers as soon as possible.
Okay. Is there any other type of, any other comment or discussion on it?
Well, I agree with Selectman Mendoza. I think we need to move forward in advertising. We can perhaps, we do it in 3 process, we can dictate more.
I guess that, some, I guess, responsibility falls on me. I think I should have brought up last meeting, and it didn't occur to me till I was going over the stuff. Maybe we should bring in a couple of the council on aging members and get the feeling of how they want to see the advertisement go for the position, seeing how they have to work with this person.
I know they're concerned about getting it filled based
Yeah.
on the youth committee meeting I was at Monday night. So I'd like to see if we could have it posted. Maybe Mike could do some polling of them, of some key
Right.
points.
Okay.
But not to hold it off 2 more weeks, but to move ahead and get it posted in the
Okay.
papers as soon as possible and just direct the administrator to contact the
Yeah,
the
so
chairperson.
we could post it in this Friday's item and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and they
for
could
2
maybe
weeks.
add some input as to what they're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, we can have administrator call the chairman,
Sure.
chairperson, Coordinator, and talk to him.
I'll make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we advertise and
Okay.
prior to advertising, have the town administrator contact the chairperson of the council on aging. If
Get some
there's any
input.
detail that they want.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
To get her input, right?
Yeah.
To advertise.
To advertise. So that way it'd go out this Friday and be for 2 weeks
Right.
in the local papers, and I guess how do you want to advertise? Do you want it in the local papers? Do you want it also in the Worcester Telegram?
Yeah, Worcester paper.
Telegram and
The
Worcester
Worcester paper and
Okay.
local papers.
All right. So that's your motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to advertise for our senior center director. Any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous. Next up we have is the fire truck bid. The fire chief had put together a bid package for the purchase of a new fire engine. The only one bid that was received was from Greenwood Fire Apparatus Incorporated. The amount was for $274,061, and it's currently being built, and it's expected to be delivered in early February. And obviously, the chief is recommending that the selectmen accept this bid and would like the direction as to the remaining money in that appropriated sum at town meeting, at $300,000, could be used for equipment on that vehicle. And he's got, a couple examples down there, like Jaws of Life, radio equipment, that type of thing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the bid from Greenwood Fire Apparatus and direct the chief that with any of the surplus to go ahead with the Jaws of Life and radio equipment that's appropriate for the vehicle.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for to accept the fire truck bid. Is there any other, or any discussion on this? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Basis, next one is from the Worcester Regional Transit Authority. It's bus route number 17, which I guess is the route that runs out to Clinton. They're saying here, they've sent us a note saying that they have hired a consultant to make recommendations on making their system more efficient. One of the recommendations proposed by the Urbitran is to eliminate the Clinton bus route number 17. Our own town administrator, Mike Ward, attended a recent meeting at the WRTA Advisory Board, and it was agreed that they would hold public hearings in the communities that would be affected by the changes. So we do have a public hearing that's going to take place at the Clinton Town Hall on Monday, February 7th at 6 p.m. And again, that's Monday, February 7th at 6 p.m. here at the Town Hall. And basically it's, give your input for people affected along this line, hopefully. So if there's anyone in Clinton out there that uses this route, I urge them to come down. And also, just a footnote, Congressman Jim McGovern and our State Senator Harry Chandler and State Representative Howard Knowles have sent letters to the WRTA in support of keeping the bus service in the town of Clinton. So obviously, we thank them for their support. And I guess obviously we could, I don't believe we've written a letter of support for the line, so I guess I'll put that in if someone would like to make that a form of a motion, we could send off a letter too, obviously.
I'll make a motion that we send out a letter to
Second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to write a letter of support, bus route 17 to the WRTA, the Worcester Regional Transit Authority. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. We have a scholarship donation Clinton Public Schools Community Scholarship Committee has sent a letter to the Board of Selectmen requesting a donation to their foundation that provides scholarships to graduating seniors from Clinton High School to use towards furthering their education. And there was a letter enclosed in the packet. How's the board feel on this?
I think we can make
Table it, or?
No, I feel comfortable making a donation to that scholarship donation. Scholarship ones are pretty tight right now, so if somebody works hard to get a decent grade and stuff like that, I think we can try to contribute to their education if possible.
Guess what we have to come up with those this summer, how much you want?
I think about 250.
I'd second that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded for a scholarship donation to the Clinton Public Schools Community Scholarship Committee. Is there any other discussion on the matter? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, it's unanimous. And we have another one from, it's a student ambassador program from the Clinton Middle School. Student Kelsey A. Ring has been selected to participate in the People to People Student Ambassador Program to take place in Australia during the summer of 2005. Ms. Ring is soliciting donations to help offset the program tuition cost of $5,000. The tuition payment for this program is due on March 1st of 2005. First of all, I'd just like to congratulate Ms. Ring on her accomplishment and open it up to the board to see what would they'd like to do.
I guess I'd be willing to make a donation to that also. I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime achievement that
Right.
you only do once in a life.
Same amount
I
as
think at a minimum $250.
I'd second 250.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded for the Student Ambassador Program. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous. And Congressman, the 2005 congressional agenda, Congressman Jim McGovern has sent a letter to the Board of Selectmen requesting input and recommendations on priorities that he should advocate on behalf of the 3rd Congressional District of fiscal year 2006 federal appropriations. And he'd like to hear from us by January 27th. So I think we could put something together. I know infrastructure would be at the top of my list. I know the rest of us could
Infrastructure's a big-
add other things too, but that just comes to mind as something present that we could always use some federal funds there. So I guess I'd look up for a motion on that we come up with a top 5 list or top 10 list. We don't have to have 10.
Top five.
Top 5 most pressing things for the town that we could use. So,
I think maybe we can give Mike a list of all the 5 things we want, and Mike can take the top 5 of all of us.
yeah.
Go from there.
Sounds like,
I think we'll find out we're very close to what we need.
yeah.
So I would accept a motion on that.
So may I make a motion that we give 5 items as to Mike, the town administrator, as what we need, as to priorities for the town of Clinton, and Mike can generate the average of the most common 5 and submit that to Congressman McGovern.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded on the 2005 congressional agenda for a letter to be sent to Congressman Jim McGovern. Any other discussion on the matter? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous. And basically, this other one was kind of a long one about the health insurance consultant that we already
Yeah, Mr.
voted
Chairman,
on,
yeah,
so-
we voted on, I'm part of that insurance.
That's right.
Town Insurance Subcommittee, and Strategic Benefit Advisors came in, met with all the union department heads, as well as Mike and myself, and John Kittredge, the chairman of the Finance Committee. They did a very, very good job, and we think, we feel strongly that they're the right firm to maintain. So I'd request that the board just reaffirm that the agreement with Strategic Benefit Advisors and not reconsider a change.
Is there a second to that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded on the health insurance consultant. Is there any discussion on it? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. And I guess I'll take a motion to go back into, or I guess we can just go right back into regular session, or 7:15 hearing.
I'll recuse myself.
Okay. Selectman Elworthy, will recuse himself on this. And before we get started too, I forgot to bring it up at the beginning of the meeting. Selectman Pizzillo is obviously not here tonight. He is home with the flu, so we wish him a speedy recovery and hope he can join us in our next meeting on the 26th. So get better, Philip, and see you in a couple weeks. So next up, we do have a liquor license hearing for O'Malley Brothers Incorporated, doing business as North End Cafe. Keith, how are you? Keith, you can just state your full name and your address to the secretary.
Sure, my name's Keith O'Malley, 70 Forest Street, Clifton, Mass.
Keith, welcome. Basically, you're here because the board just has some question into your license.
Yep.
Hasn't been in effect now for quite some time. We just want to know what your future plans are with that license.
Well, I'm currently trying to negotiate a lease to reopen. I have a pretty good record. I've been in business for over 12 years with no violations from the ABCC or the Clinton Police Department. Unfortunately, it's untimely right now in my life to be able to reopen, but I'm trying very hard and diligently to get that to happen.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to do right now.
Okay. I'll just open up to my fellow board members. Keith.
Sure.
Selectman Mendoza or Zapantis have any questions?
Yeah, the question I have to Keith, like, I guess the license has been pretty, was it about a year and a half now? I think it's been inactive.
Been around there.
Yeah, and I guess,
Excuse me, how long has it been?
man, I'm speaking,
Can we get a date?
we're here to discuss Mr. O'Malley's, and we can get to that later.
If you have any
Right.
questions, you can
But
come up
this
in
is a hearing
public
for
comment.
Mr. O'Malley, not for the...
Okay.
So I'm just trying to get an idea, we need to get it back on track, so I guess, I know like the ABC has been forcing things to move right along and stuff like that.
I understand that,
It's just
Mr. Mendoza.
Stuff is inactive, so we really need to kind of push it along. I know it's a tough situation for you.
I understand.
And I know you've always done a good job there and stuff like that, so we kind of need to push it along, so. And that's my concern, I think, we're kind of being forced to move forward.
I think I'm looking at a time frame right now in my life, within the next 3 to 6 months. I'm trying very hard to get this all together and get it straightened out.
Okay.
Selectman Zapantis, do you have any following questions?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so Keith, you said you're looking at about a 3 to 6 month time frame.
Hopefully soon. But
Okay.
I would say at the earliest within 2 months, at the latest within 6 months.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I just think that my prior record as a business owner in town speaks for itself. I don't need to explain. You guys basically know what I've done
Sure.
in town.
Yeah.
There again, I say I've never had a violation, never had any trouble. I've always run a respectable business, and I did it for 12 years. And I contributed a lot to this town as far as charitable donations in many ways. When the town hall renovations came up, we took care of that. The item appeal, we took care of that. Any association that needed anything that we could contribute to, we always did. And not only that, I mean, naturally, we paid taxes to the town, and, hopefully we bolstered some coffers in town.
Well, since I've been on the board for the past, going on 6 years now, I've never had a problem with your establishment. I know you've never been up in front of this board, other than for the license hearing today. So obviously, I extend my hand to, already thank you for
very much, Mr.
running a good business, because I know the bar business is a tough industry.
It's a hard business.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Just in closing, would the board like to make a motion on the timeframe for the license to be up and running?
Then do you know the statutes, what's the maximum, or the minimum?
There isn't a per se maximum under the statute. There
Okay.
is legal precedent that has been approved by the appellate courts up to 6 months.
Up to 6 months?
Would the board like to?
Mr. I want to make a motion that we move forward and give Mr. O'Malley no more than 6 months, and if we can do it sooner,
because you have to do it sooner. And I won't, right. And if you don't do it by then, we'll have to move forward on what we need to do
Could you
that.
say that a little louder, Mr. Mendoza? I heard you clearly when you denied me my license, saying you don't need more bars.
Ma'am, you're out of order.
Ma'am, you know, everybody,
I
Want me
couldn't
to
hear
take
what you said. Maybe I'm just in shock. Could you please?
Basically, ma'am, what he said, I'll speak up so everyone can hear back there.
Go right ahead.
Basically, he's making a motion to give an extension for 6 months.
Extension for 6 months.
6 months on his license, so he has 6 months to get his business up and running or do so with his license.
existing
Open up
license,
Barbara Clinton.
my existing
Thank
license.
you. I just want to get that really clear.
You know, ma'am, I'm not gonna,
It's okay.
forget it, it's not even worth a comment.
It's to reopen an existing bar, it's not to open a new bar.
Right.
This is an existing business.
He has an existing license.
So
Oh,
what?
all right.
So we're not adding any to the current total.
Dino, you have anything else to add on?
Yes,
on the
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see Mr. O'Malley back in 6 weeks with a follow-up report, if we may.
Okay. So, Keith, this is the official notice that you have basically 6 months, and in 6 weeks, come back to us in 6 weeks with a status report where you are in the process of finding a new establishment.
Absolutely.
That's my understanding that he can move forward and transfer a license, or sell a license, correct?
He would have to go through the process,
Right.
but if he found a
Yeah.
willing buyer, he would then come before the board with the transfer application and go through that hearing
Would you like
process.
to put that in the form of a motion?
What?
The granting of the 6 month?
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a second?
I want a second
Okay.
stipulation of a 6-week.
Okay. Any other discussion on it? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Good luck,
Dino.
Keith.
Keith, in all fairness, the sooner you can do it, the better.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Okay, next up we have is the water filtration facility monthly report. And I know Philip Bailey is here along with our DPW superintendent. Okay. We do have Steve Small from Earth Tech as well. Mike is here as well.
Gentlemen,
I think everyone else.
good evening.
Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you. So hopefully you have some good news for us this month.
I do. Should I go into our progress update?
Feel free.
We're pleased to report that we've been making good progress over this past month. Some of the issues that we've accomplished, we're into the mechanicals of the building. The finished water high-service pumping system has been installed in the building, and the associated piping and header. The process piping, which is down below the filter floor, is underway. We have pipe fitters in there welding the stainless steel process piping, and are also beginning to connect that piping to the filter skid, so the mechanics of the actual filter is now going together. Some of the other things that are going on, there are 3 sets of stairs in the building. 2 of the sets of stairs are in place. Concrete will be placed on those within a week or so. All window and door frames are in. The glass will be delivered this week and should be going in within a week or so. The overhead and garage doors at the back of the building, as well as the steel security doors around the building, are in place, and now the building can be secured and locked up tight. Our utility work inside is ongoing. The HVAC and electric work is ongoing. HVAC, I would say, is probably 60 or 65% complete. The rough plumbing is complete, and the electric is well along the way. As far as things outside, this month we've placed over 2,000 yards of gravel on the site, and I would call that around 96, 98% complete on the rough grading on the site. Our underground piping contractor, UEL, has put together and completed the underground piping and the tie-in of the finished water to the existing water main up at the North Dike. We'll be testing that, but I don't anticipate any problems. There has been some additional yard piping that has been completed out at the site. One of our big concerns right now is the roof sheathing. The roof sheathing is approximately 35% complete. That means the insulation, the plywood is on, ice and water shield and felt paper has been on the north side of the building. As anybody can see, we've got some weather woes upon us, but today the contractor turned on a temporary heating unit, so we're hoping to melt off what we can, and we're going to get up and shovel off the roof. And we're trying to get a commitment from the roofer. The contractor has agreed to work overtime this weekend to try to get in with the weather window. We're hoping to work Saturday, and hopefully if the weather cooperates, we hope to get the building weather tight, that is with the felt paper, not the roof shingles, weather tight, hopefully by the end of next week. So as you can see, we've made quite a bit of progress. The roof is obviously a key component here, and all of our efforts are into getting that roof watertight to proceed ahead.
How is the morale down there with all the other contractor, with Methuen and the other subcontractors? Everyone working well? And
yeah, no, we've got
no snags.
There's a good group out there. There's a good feeling about the job. As we all know, it had a number of difficulties, but everybody's pitching in and working cooperatively to overcome any issues and to work in cooperation with the other trades. So I would say the morale is very good down there.
Good, great.
And we're still feeling, although the schedule shows us slightly behind, we feel we can make up some time, and we're optimistic that we're going to come in on time this June.
Does any of the board members have any questions for Steve?
Continues to look like it's progressing.
Yeah, we're working hard on it.
Just a question. Steve, how long can you leave just the felt exposed? Will that be a problem on the roof?
What sometimes happens is with the moisture, the felt will buckle a little bit. Sometimes that can reflect in the shingles themselves. If we do have a problem with the felt buckling, it will be removed at the time that the shingles are put on, so that we have a nice flat and uniform looking roof. So we have discussed the fact that the felt can't last forever up there. So we're hoping that we get a break in the weather and we can get back on and get roofing shingles moving as well as...
60 degrees tomorrow, take advantage of it.
Yeah, if the rain holds up.
Except the roof's covered with snow, so it makes it tough.
One day 60 doesn't solve it.
Right, we're heating underneath it, and there will be men up shoveling it off to facilitate the work on the weekend and next week.
The problem, the flutes on the metal deck run horizontally instead of up and down. If they ran up and down, it would slide right off, but unfortunately, they're going the wrong direction. So.
It wasn't a design flaw.
No, it's correct. It needs to be that way. It's just unfortunate.
Good thing.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike, what do you have for us?
I have, you should have seen a draft version of payment application number 26, which covers the month of December. I forwarded it on without our cover letter. There were still some issues we were going over with the contract. So I took liberty of making copies for each of you with the cover letter on it.
Thank you.
And that pretty much covers the work that Steve just discussed. And one of the bigger items was obviously the roof. You know, the structural steel framing went up, so there was a fair bit of value to that. And we also got delivery of the new VFDs this month. So those are in the plant, waiting to be installed on the pads.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve application number 26, having the approval of the clerk of the works and the superintendent having reviewed it.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made and seconded for payment application number 26. Is there any discussion on the matter? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The other item I have is, at last month's meeting, we had discussed change order, technically change order 8, and the board had, after we reviewed the items, the board had approved a change order in the amount of, it was, I believe, roughly 79,000 and some change. I have that document with me tonight as a formal one to be signed by the board.
That's a thick one. That's quite the change order.
Well, it's just all
Oh,
the
there's
backup that
several
needs to go with, yeah, there's 5 copies. And the backup is the detailed labor materials and equipment that was used by, that was submitted by the contractor and verified by Steve in the field as being reasonable. So those are the originals that need to be signed, and then,
Simon, just the chairman?
Excuse me?
Need
I
to be
believe
signed
so.
by the chairman?
and then need to be returned, essentially, we need to get concurrence from the SRF. And the representative of DEP is aware of these changes.
I think it just has to be signed by the chairman.
I make a motion that we authorize the chairman to sign and
Guys want to look at this, right?
also move it down to the acting town accountant to sign as well.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion under that? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, it's unanimous. And did you have one other one?
I have one item specifically to Selectman Zapantis. I owe you an apology for last time. I mentioned or noted about the Mass Electric information that I misspoke at the last meeting. That had not gone out. It will go out, and Mr. Horton should have that information in his hands by the end of this week.
Great, thank you.
So you're welcome.
Does any of the board members have any comments or questions?
I'm just very thankful for the fact that things are moving around quite well, and I continue to do that. It's been a long time.
Phil or Chris, anything to add?
No, I think they covered it pretty well with the progress. That's, and again, the roof is the key. And
Yeah.
this week, the contractor is let us know that he's going to, put a full court press on getting that roof on if the weather holds out. So.
Good. We're very excited that everyone's working well up there, and it's a smooth flow right now.
Yep.
It's music to my ears, I know that, and I can honestly say for the rest of the board too, seeing how it's been going so long with this, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also make a motion that we approve the Clerk of the Works contractual invoice from July 19th to December 30th of 2004.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any other discussion on it?
On the discussion, I'd just, again, like to thank Phil, obviously with Chris coming on board also this past summer, just a huge difference and uptick in our involvement and confidence with the oversight of the project. So I thank Phil and Chris for their continued effort.
Well, just to make a comment on what Mark had mentioned, the job up there, the trades, Tech and the superintendent up there, they're moving that job as fast as they possibly can. Information is coming. There's some errors that were committed that we bump in once in a while, as you can see by the changes. But everything is, harmony on the job is great, and I think that with that roof getting tight, boy, we can really fly.
Yeah.
That's our goal.
But I'm really impressed that, just to say what Phil did, I mean, they're really moving along up there, but when I was up there 2 months ago, just the attention to detail and, how you guys can move, at a good pace and then pay attention to all that is very impressive. So, again, thank you. And thank you, Phil and Chris, for your professionalism. It's greatly appreciated. So with that being said, I know there's a motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have the fiscal year 2005 CDBG application, and the economic director, development director is here, Donald Lowe again. Going for the hat trick tonight.
Back for round 2.
Yep.
I have more handouts. Again, this is nothing that I'm asking for the board to react to this evening. This is for your information. This is actually just one small portion of what will go into the grant, but it's a required portion, and it documents how whatever we apply for grant money is part of a planned process, and that as a community, we do have a community development strategy. That's very important. Last year was the first year we had one. I'm the author of it, but I'm by no means responsible for everything that it represents. And I invite the board to review that at their leisure. I have to solicit public comment on this when I have my public hearing for the grant application as well. But this is something I think it's important for the board to understand that the state wants to see every grant applicant community is marching to some sort of plan, and that people aren't just throwing applications together in the hopes of getting money, but it ties into a more planful method. So I've documented what the town has done as an entity as far as planning, the types of documents that have been created, what some of the needs of the town are, and you'll see when you do have the opportunity to read through the document that effectively housing, open space, economic development, and public infrastructure and community facilities, those are our main priorities. Nothing in here will be any surprise to any of the selectmen. It's something that gets discussed here almost at every meeting by some department. So it's just another planning document. If any of the selectmen have any comments on this, whether it be this evening or at any time in the future, I would love to discuss it with you. But so that's just something I'm sharing with you for your information. Okay. As far as the particular grant application goes, as you know, as I said at the last meeting, the plan had been for several months to pursue the senior center funding for this year, and for what are very good reasons, that will be deferred until next year. So I've sat down and looked at what are the needs of the community and how do they fit into a block grant application, what would be applicable. And we have run and continue to run a very successful housing rehabilitation program through the office. We've helped many homeowners. In the previous grant, I believe we worked on 18 homes. I don't know what the number, I don't recall what the number was prior to that. The grant that we're working on now, I believe when we're completed, we'll have helped 14 homeowners, and with another 6 probably beyond that. This particular grant would propose to deal with 6 to 8 homes. I'm going to adjust that a little bit. I'm leaning more towards 6 because with $35,000 potential for a home, $30,000 for repair, and then $5,000 for lead, the money gets eaten up fairly quickly. If you have smaller projects, you can do more. So this is just an order of magnitude. But just to tell you right now, with the grant we have going, I believe we have 12 people on the wait list. And every time I'm on television talking about the program, invariably the phone rings the next day with other people wanting to find out about it. You know, we do the best we can to communicate the existence of the program. What I try to do, we'll hope to do again this year, is to get on Ed McIntyre's program. I know a lot of people watch cable, and to be able to talk about what the office does, and certainly the rehab program is one of the main components of it. So having said that, what you see there is 6 to 8 units with an estimated cost of $35,000 per unit, which is why we have the skew there. If you multiply 35,000 by one of those numbers, that's what you would get. I would take 15% of whatever the grant application is for administrative costs. So if we were to do 6 units, that which would be $210,000, and 15% of that is approximately $31,000. So that's where the numbers come from. That doesn't fully fund the office, but with program income funds that we have, there's not an issue with being able to fund myself or the financial officer. So funding the office is not an issue. But I would be very happy to talk to the selectmen about any thoughts you have or feedback you have on this program. If you've gotten any from the townspeople?
Well, the feedback I've had is that the residents that have been able to take advantage of the grants in the past have been thrilled with the assistance that we've been able to provide. So I think it's a great program, continued success, and best of luck with it.
Thank you.
Any of the board members?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what you said, like, you're right, as soon as people find out about it, they keep calling. People, since you brought it up, people have asked me about it, and I just confirmed to you, so.
Yeah, I just think it's the marketing of the whole program, getting it out there and let people know it's out there and it's available to, to certain people who qualify for it.
That's right. I mean, newspaper articles, every time the newspapers write about it, we get calls. Certainly, people do watch the public meeting that the selectman has. Again, certainly would get on cable. And when we do advertise, a lot of times we don't have to advertise, but we do anyway. Because just because you have 12 people on a waiting list doesn't mean there aren't more people out there that should be made aware of it. So I would also want to get a notice on the public access. And I would also want to do an ad, not just in English, but in Spanish as well. So I may be seeking certain board members to help me out with some Spanish translation on an ad, if any of you have those skills. So that's part of what we that's part of what we're looking at doing, just to get the word out. One of the things that you need to document for the state is that there's a need and a demand, and there's no question that we have both a need and a demand for this program.
Thank you, Donnie. Appreciate it.
So if I could have a motion from the board, I would greatly appreciate it.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made and seconded on the CDBG application. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Donnie, keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One other grant note while I'm here. I promise that this will be quick, but we're putting the finishing touches on a Community Development Action Grant, the CDAG. I've discussed it with you in the past, as you know. The application went in 2 years ago. Was being very favorably viewed when the state ran out of funding for the program before they got to us. We have to reapply again. The forms are different, the requirements are different, so there's a lot of ground left to cover. One of the things that we need to do is have a public hearing with the appropriate elected officials involved. And what I discussed with the town administrator was, not at the next meeting, but the one after that, so in 4 weeks' time, if we could open the selectmen's meeting as a public hearing on this, this would give the board the opportunity to provide their input for what you would like to see tweaked, if anything, in the grant, understand what we've done and how we prioritize, and also would allow for public comment. Just to refresh your memory, at a grand scale, what we're looking at is water line replacement and sidewalk replacement or repair for the Church Street area between High and Main, the lower part of High Street, down to the lights of Water Street, which I personally feel very strongly about. I think, the downtown business district is the entire downtown business district, and we need to take care of the businesses down at that end of the street. We need to look at Union Street as well between High and Main. We need to look at Water Street between High and Main. Without seeing the final numbers, I'm fairly confident we're not going to be able to get to all of those. So I'm going to have to go through a prioritization session. I've already worked with Superintendent McGowan. We will be having more discussions. He will be very involved in that. So we're going to try to stretch the dollar as far as we can. We'd love to do everything. I'm sure we're not going to be able to. So what I bring forward in 4 weeks will be our best recommendation. Obviously, it's up to the board to decide what the final project is, but we're shooting for $1 million in grant money. And it's amazing how quickly $1 million can go when you're looking at a project like this. It sounds like all the money in the world, and it really isn't.
Doesn't last long. Donnie, since we're on TV tonight, if you could just state your office hours of operation so people who are interested in the application want to come in, they know what time your office is basically running.
Absolutely. My office is open from, opens at 8 and is normally open until 4:30.
Okay. All right. And obviously, if you're out and about, you do have a secretary there as well.
Do not have a secretary. I have a financial officer who sits in the reception area and,
fine job.
and is always very happy to take messages for me. But it's going to take someone bigger than me to call her a secretary.
Well, I just did, so I'll have to answer. I'll have to answer to
You're
it.
the chairman, so you can do that. But no, the office is normally staffed. I am frequently not in the office because I'm out working on other things. I'm in the office as much as I can be. But Carol is normally there.
And again, thanks for your, the work on the Sherwood Forest, I believe it's called, brewery.
It is, yes.
Good job on that, and obviously, anytime we can bring business into town, it's a good thing. So again, the board, I thank you, the rest of the board thanks you, and keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Donnie. Okay, let's see. I guess next up, we have committee reports. I know Mark.
Yeah, just to follow up on the Senior Center Building Needs Committee, we took action earlier. We met on Monday night, and the committee was excited about the work that the McGuire Group appears ready to do, so I thank the board for their approval of the motion to proceed. And hopefully, their window is actually about, after we give them about 2 weeks, about a 6-week turnaround time, 6 to 7 weeks before we get that first phase done, so we have an idea of, you know, what the total cost, estimated total cost. Obviously, it's not a lock-in until you get a bid back, but we should have an idea of what that refurbishment will cost us, and then set us up for potential grants for the following years within the next 2 months. So that's where we are with the Needs Committee.
Good.
Thank you. And thanks also for serving on that health insurance subcommittee as well.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it, giving us the collective feedback on that. So again, thank you for all your hard work. The board appreciates it. Does anyone else have any committee reports? Okay. There being none, I'll open it up to public comment.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
Due to increased family and work demands, I will not be seeking re-election this year to the board. It's time to do some other things. So, thank you.
Well, Dina, I'd just have to say, there's a lot of people out there, thank you for your time, and I'd like to be the first one anyways, and I know we came in together, and, we've sat through some pretty long nights here together, for 6 years, so I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Good luck in the future. Thank you.
For your time served.
Appreciate you, Mike.
Any other public comment? Yes, Joe.
My name is O'Grillis, 25 Ash Street. I believe all you gentlemen know me.
Sure.
I have, Mark knows.
Yeah.
I've written down what I want to say. We had done a little talking before the meeting. There's still some disagreement on what Mr. Bailey had to say, so I'm going to go ahead with what I wrote. Good evening, gentlemen. As you know, Mr. Elworthy, I have a flooding problem in my backyard. I'm not sure if you have enlightened the rest of the board of the situation at
Just the
this time.
superintendent of DPW.
As most of you probably know, I live behind the new elementary school. The access road runs around my property. I bought this home in the spring of '99. The only water problem I had when I bought the home was a damp basement. I knew it was going to be damp because it was in a low-lying area. Other than that, no problems. Usually on a heavy rain, I get a damp basement. 4 years later, the school was built. My backyard now gets flooded frequently. In fact, it's been almost 20 times now in the last 2 years. It first occurred after the construction company had compacted and elevated the school site. I have it on videotape, and the date on that I checked tonight was June of 2003. At that time, I contacted Phil Bailey with my concern. He said he'd take care of it. He had the crew move some bales of hay around, and we thought the problem was solved. Once the school project was hardtop, it got worse. I thought perhaps it was the drain basins that lead to the culvert were getting clogged, so I tried unclogging them. On a moderate rain, it would work. On a heavy rain, it wouldn't go down, even when they were unclogged. I had previously asked the DPW head, Mr. Spratt, to look into it. He never got back to me. That was last spring, so now it's been a year at that point. Right after the last special town meeting, you know, the one where you guys tried to crucify my buddy, Mr. Hart, I talked to the new DPW director, Mr. McGowan. He hadn't got back to me when it got real bad several weeks ago, and I called Phil Bailey again, and you, Mr. Elworthy. You both said you would investigate and get back to me. I did see Phil that morning do a drive-by. I was on my front porch having a cigarette. By the way, it's been 12 days today since I've had one. So don't get me going. Mr. McGowan did eventually get back to me, and his answer was to what was happening was in-depth and logical. It even explained why the old high school parking lot used to have a lake in its parking lot after heavy rain, even though it too had drainage to the culvert. Because that site has now been elevated, the lake is now on my property, perhaps damaging my trees or even worse, the foundation of my home. I hope not. As explained to me by Mr. McGowan, the culvert cannot handle all the runoff during heavy rain periods and meltdowns. When the culvert is running hard and over capacity, it does not allow for the water on town property to drain quickly enough. It ends up in my backyard. For me, this is his solution would be to regrade my yard, which I feel would be the town's responsibility, seeing this is where the water is coming from. It would be cost prohibitive for me. I'd like to know if you said yourself you have discussed this with other people, and now that the whole board knows, where do we go from here, and what's going to be done about it?
Well, first of all, I'm not the one to solve your problem. I'm one member of the Board of Selectmen, right. And ultimately, we have to work in conjunction with the Superintendent of Public Works when it comes to regards of water runoff and things like that. So, Joe, I can't solve your problem. What I did was talk with Phil after you had called me, and Phil got up there and took a look at it to see what was happening. I think, you know, your view of history and other people's view of history in regards to the water and the water problems there certainly could be different. And there's also property line issues and things like that. So the issue is bigger than just as water now running off into your property. There's property line issues that could then impact how and where we put catch basins.
I'm aware of the property line issue. I have been aware of it since the school was built 4 years ago. I would like to say, as I had mentioned in the beginning, I first pointed this out in spring of 2003. Every time it happened, I would call the police station, the fire department, whoever I had to call to do something about the lake in my backyard. And it's ironic that nothing came about until I started discussing it in posts on clintonmass.com, and I started really pushing the issue, and all of a sudden, we're doing something about it. Now, as far as the property line issue goes, you might want to check how old that fence is, for one thing, okay? And if you want to take it right up to the 6 inches before my front porch, go ahead and take the darn stuff, okay? I just don't want the water in my yard, and that's all I have to say.
Joe, if I may, if it's been happening for a year, all due respect, you should have came in front of the board and talked to us.
Well, you know, I thought I'd be the nice guy and try to talk to the people who could take action, like a Mr. Bailey or the DPW director, and I thought they would, you know, in turn discuss it and maybe bring it up to the board and do something about it. Where nothing was done, that's why I'm here tonight. It's been 2 years, I'm getting a little fed up with it.
And the issue with the water, it's always been wet back there. I know that's not what you want to hear, but it's always been flooded back there.
Right, well, I heard that tonight from Mr. Bailey that my backyard has always been flooded. All I can say is I was in it for 4 years before that school was built. And other than a little dampness, I didn't have 2 feet of water taking up 3,000 square feet of my backyard, which is what's happening every time it rains heavy, okay? I also talked with the previous owners and the previous owners before the previous owners, and they never had 2 feet and 3,000 square feet of their backyard loaded with water. So if Mr. Bailey or anybody else tells you that, it's bull.
Well, they never told me that. So I want to hear from you. That's what I want to hear. I never heard anything from the previous owner that lived there, which I believe was Mr. Wright.
And God rest his soul. But his Linda is still living.
Right. Now, we have the superintendent here, and we do also have Philip Bailey. Would you guys like to add anything to what Mr. Grillis has to say? Or?
I think that there's an issue down there, no question about it. There is water getting into his backyard. I certainly haven't been ignoring his problem. I did go down there several times and looked at it. I did tell him that I needed to see it one more time during a heavy rainstorm. And I think I did not get down there on Christmas Eve or very close to Christmas Eve when the last time it flooded out.
Yeah.
I apologize, but it's a busy time of year, and I know he doesn't want to hear that, but I didn't get there that day. And actually, I'm not making an apology for not being there on Christmas Eve, but
Understand.
I told him that it may take till spring because there are issues, and I want to rule out a few easy fixes before we jump into the very difficult fix of possibly having to replace a $7 million culvert through the middle of that field.
Right.
There are several options that I discussed with him, and I said one of them could be regrading the backyard, because his backyard, most people's yards are shaped so it crowns away from the foundation and off of the property. His yard is shaped into a big bowl, which is basically a basin, and the water is collected in the basin. There are other options that I've looked at, but I haven't finished, and I can't finish during all the ice and problems we're having. A little bit of investigation, which is very little left to do, to look at, to rule out every option, and then try to come up with a solution.
I think...
that's how I had left it with him about, I don't know, maybe a month ago probably.
And
I will say
that
for-
Joe has is that his yard is shaped like a bowl now, not because it was always like that, but because of the
The
development.
buildup over the years between the baseball fields and the elementary school, there's a significant increase in elevation of the properties around me, which has made a huge difference. I would like to thank Mr. McGowan for getting back to me so quick compared to everybody else, though. And when he did have that long conversation with me over the phone that night, he was very in-depth, very professional. He made me realize that, geez, I never thought that could be the problem. Of course, that's why he's the professional and I'm not. The reason why I'm bringing this up tonight now at the board is I want everybody to know about it, and, you know, now's the time to start talking about this issue. I know he wants to wait until the springtime to get some things done, but I don't want to start talking about the issue in the springtime, and then now we're talking 2006, 2007 before anything is ultimately done about it. As far as the most expensive, I certainly don't want the town to have to go out and spend $2 million to put in a new culvert. That'd be ridiculous. Regrading my property would probably satisfy me, because it wouldn't flood my backyard. My main concern for that would be, now, who's next? Where's the lake go from there? Does the neighbor next to me get it, or the Lopez's across the street? They wouldn't be too happy with me if they ended up getting the water that I was getting.
Well, I think you want answers, and I think the answers, unfortunately, have to wait until
Have to be
April.
researched, correct.
Yeah,
But
you know, so we can
these are the
see,
questions
hopefully.
that we need to find answers to.
Right.
I think everybody is committed to solving the problem. No one wants to put some, like, I didn't know about it right now, so I'm not making an excuse for it, but I'm just saying I didn't know about it. So if I don't know about it, I really can't help you. Okay, and I think you can get a hold of me if you want to. So, with that being said, we're all committed to find out what this problem is. We can do some history on this. We can not just be fixing things, guessing at something. We need to understand what we're fixing so we can fix it correctly, so you don't have
I
the
think
problem.
that's what Chris was doing,
Exactly,
you
so
know.
the Lopez don't get the problem, so the schools get, so everybody's satisfied. So I think we're committed to do that, so.
Could it be safe to assume then, probably by the end of April or something, I'd be hearing back from somebody from this board, or perhaps Mr. McGowan or something,
Yes.
as to where we go from here?
You'll hear from me before, you know, early part of spring, you'll definitely hear from me.
Chris, is there room on the foundation? Is it high enough to grade away from it?
Pretty much around most of the foundation there is. The only issue I think there might be is the bulkhead might be a little bit of an issue.
The bulkhead on that side isn't used, so it could be
It's not
filled
used
right
on
in.
that side.
You could fill that right in.
So
Yeah.
I would, a lot of his foundation, you might have 4 feet
Right.
before, you know, to be able to fill on top of that.
Right. Even under my front porch, there's almost 3 feet from the ground.
I mean, that's an issue we can address it with some fill maybe or something, and look at that. That might be
What I'd just recommend before we even go down any paths or
No,
solutions.
no, I understand. I'm just saying maybe that could be
is
something.
And when Joe contacted me, Joe, just for point of clarification, the board didn't need to know about it. The superintendent needed to know about it, and the clerk at the school who was overseeing that construction needed to know about it, because they're the ones that are the professionals, or at least can understand the situation. So that's why I did not feel compelled or need to. These guys aren't going to be able to fix the problem. You know, let the people that understand the engineering aspects of it as best they can look at it, and that's where it's at. And these are the right people to be involved, and
And these are the people I tried to contact right away. It's just, like I said, 2 years, you know, you get irritated at, you know. it takes
yeah,
so
we
long.
can't speak for Mr. Spratt.
Phil, you have a point?
Just to make a correction in some of Joe's statements. Joe has a problem down there, which we have been talking about, Chris and I have been talking about it for 2 months. I've been talking about that problem for 1.5 to 2 years. There are 4 different problems associated with Joe's problem. We both agreed we've got to get in there and shoot some grade, we've got to find out. In fact, there's the tape on the culvert is here in the town, was given to Mr. Spratt, of all the inverts that are in the culvert underneath the pavement down there. Now, going back a little history, when the new high school was built down there, they had at least 3 occasions where the industrial building was flooded, the water came in above the level, which is much higher than Joe's backyard. So that water has been going down in that area, and Joe has a problem, and I don't think that the fields helped his problem. I think the schools helped it as much as Joe maybe not think they did, because they have a berm around there, and maybe possibly we could change the drainage system that might help Joe. There are other problems, as Chris told Joe, about the inverts that go into the culvert. Now, if anyone wants to look at an old map, that was Counterpane Pond at one time. That whole area, that was a pond. Then it became a brook, and it meandered down through Ash Street and down underneath Brook Street, heading down towards the river. It's right now, if you dig down on any earth well, I'm not in Joe's yard right now, and I'm not making a joke of this, but anywhere down there, the water level is probably 30 inches below the blacktop in that background right now. That's the water level, whether we like it or not. The bottom of the culvert is the bottom of the brook that was there 100 years ago, or whenever, all right? They built the culvert, they capped the culvert, and we can recap it because it wasn't structurally sound. But what we did not change anything of the original culvert built back when the high school was built. We didn't change any grades or anything. They did, when they built the field, they closed off one of our accesses, which is underneath the basketball court, which that can be dug out and cut out. Grades on the field. Right now, if you go down to the new softball field, the kids' field, those drains are higher than Joe's backyard.
Yeah.
No question about it.
And they weren't under the old high school
We
field.
really can't solve the Parks and Recreation problem, okay? But we have a problem now, and as I said to Joe, and Chris said to Phil, hey, we're gonna help Joe. There's a piece of property down there, as Joe discussed, that's up for discussion also, that belongs to the town of Clinton, and a piece across the street. Now, can we put a drain in there to alleviate it? I can't give you it until we shoot all the grades and give you the right information. And Chris, I think, is heading in the same direction.
Yeah, I think just a little bit more investigation, and I know Joe, he cares about the town, he certainly doesn't want to see the town spend a fortune fixing his problem.
Absolutely not.
But he has a problem, he has a legitimate problem, and we want to help him out. And, I mean, I think I'd probably get hot if I had a foot or two of water in my backyard, whether it was there 100 years or there for 2 years.
It isn't something that we invented in the last 3 months. Or the Board of Selectmen didn't invent it in the last year. That water problem has been down there, and we're going to try and help it.
That's all I want to hear.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other public comment? Yes? Lane, I just want to address you before you start, because if this is anything with the beer and wine license and the transfer license and anything to do with that, that's already been said and done. You said it, you were here a month ago, you had your say. You have your appeal next week, so I just want to let you know that. I just don't want to go over everything that you went over last time, and I don't want this to be another hearing.
No, actually, I'd like to go over some different things than what we went over with last time. And I don't know why you're so uncomfortable with my asking questions. I mean, it is an open forum. This is America. Many people in the town want to know what's going on, and I've had hundreds of people question why I don't have my license.
But you've already had your say, you've already come in front of us.
But you have not yet given me a valid reason.
You want
And the
the
reason-
answers, and we already gave you the answers. You
If
don't
I
want the
can-
answers we're telling you.
Can I just finish without being interrupted?
Town solicitor, you have
I think
something
you
to add?
just did something that was contradictory in extending the liquor license for yet another 6 months.
It's
In all
not-
due respect to Mr. O'Malley.
No,
And
it's
this
his
is what I've
license,
been
he still
saying.
has a license, it's not a, what's that? Dennis, did you have something to add?
Mr. Chairman, the statement of reasons the board has given in their decision that was rendered previously that is currently under appeal with the ABCC, and it will be going forward for a hearing on next Wednesday. From a matter of a legal standpoint, I would recommend that the board not get into further discussions about their decision and let the appellate process take its course.
Well, that's what I was
That's
suggesting
what
to
that
Ms.
process
Perla.
is for.
Well-
So certainly, if she wants to make public comment, she can make public comment, but anything to do with the appeal, I think both parties should wait until next Wednesday and let the ABCC render their decision one way or the other.
Correct.
Okay. We don't have to discuss the appeal. I was hoping that either I could come to understand why you're denying my license, and then we won't need to have an appeal, or better yet...
That was, you came
Can
here
I just
last month.
finish? Can I
No,
just
because
finish?
we went over this last month, they gave you their reasons. And they gave you the reasons the first time, you were denied back in September.
The
It was a
reason-
2-2 vote, it failed, and now you have a right to
Mr.
appeal.
Iacobbucci, I
Period.
won't interrupt you if you don't interrupt me.
I'm not gonna go over this again, you've had your say, and that's it.
No, I don't think so.
Is there any other public comment out there?
No, I have some things to say.
No,
In
we're not
fact,
gonna go over
let
this
me
again.
ask you some questions. Okay, we're not talking about the
This board's been more than
appeal.
open with you, and we've given you your say, but we're not gonna go over this every time at every meeting, the same thing over and over again.
I
We're not
would
gonna
like
do it.
to ask Mr. Zapantis what his reason was for voting in favor of extending
He
the
already told you, we're
license.
not gonna get into that, ma'am.
At this point...
What is this? The
The
town has
decision-
questions.
Hold on, wait a minute, excuse me.
The board has given its decision, and there were 2 articulated reasons in the decision as to why the board denied that application.
Correct.
That then is now currently under appeal. This board and any other board should not get into a situation where whenever somebody is unhappy with the decision they make, that they're going to be having to come back and forth answer and be cross-examined on their decision. Their decision is their decision. People have appellate rights, and they can exercise those appellate rights. If they're not happy with the decision from the ABCC, if they don't rule in their favor, then they have a right to appeal that to the Superior Court, and there's appellate process through that process. But the decision has been rendered by the board. The board has explained it on numerous occasions. They've put it in writing, and at this point, we should let the process move forward. That's what the process is for.
Okay. Then I, as an individual who lives in the community, as an individual who pays taxes, as someone who owns 2 businesses and has owned them for the last 5.5 years, I have questions not about the beer and wine license that I applied for. I have questions about something that was discussed at this meeting tonight that does not relate to my application, and I would like to go forward. And I would also like to ask, are you interested in doing what's best for the town? Is that not your charter? Are you not here to vote on what is best for the town?
Ma'am, every select person up here has different opinions. and
Okay.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well, then I'm sure you'll be interested in hearing some of the comments that were on the website in regard to this, or at least maybe
No,
some
I
people in the community that don't have computers would be interested in hearing them. What I'd like to
Ms.
comment
Brillard, you already
on...
had your say. You've come here
I haven't had my
a month ago
say.
and went through this.
I
all
haven't
before.
had my say, Mr.
So I'm
Iacobbucci.
gonna
You
close
don't know,
I'm
you
gonna
don't know
close
what
public
I'm...
comment.
Mr.
That's-
Iacobbucci, the board has the discretion to close public comment if the board wants to close
Well, I
public
just did,
comment.
so I'm closing
And if it's
public
going to get to that level, then my suggestion is that you would consider closing public comment.
I'm closing public comment, and we have no executive session tonight. Is there any further comment on public comment? Okay, I'm gonna close for public comment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Well...
Any discussion? There being none? All in favor? Aye.
I think there were some other people in the audience that would like to make comments. You can turn me away rudely and unprofessionally, but I think other people that have come to the meeting have a right to speak. Do they not? Do they not?
We close public comment.
And my question is, how can you... Well...